I
You know,
mean,
the
look,
problem,
we've been saying for a long time to be prepared for a lot of false flags.
correct.
That's this is they're really at the phase of declining empire where it's like the death throes and they're just gonna put everything they can out there. And so it's gonna be a lot of false flags.
Well, nobody trusts this, and nor should they. That's really the point.
You
The
can't.
whole point about these stories is that you pretty much should not believe anything, like anything that they say. And
No.
in the case of driver dead after vehicle ramming attack at Michigan synagogue. So let's put it this way. So he drove his car into the synagogue, and then got into a shootout with I'm not even kidding. There were like 100 officers that showed up at this place for one shooter. And then apparently he got into a shootout and is dead.
Huh.
And now, and
Well,
now
isn't that convenient?
extremely,
Yeah.
extremely.
So what is
Um,
the is this this is that's a synagogue? Looks like a mall.
well, it's a synagogue and it's like a Jewish day school type thing.
Okay.
All,
Well,
stu-
if you
all,
were going to do a false flag, this is a good place.
all students and staff at a preschool in Temple Israel Synagogue in West Bloomfield, Michigan were safe. Oh, so no one was hurt. Yeah. So here's what we know. Driver rammed their vehicle into a large synagogue in West Bloomfield and exchanged gunfire with a security guard in an attack that set off fears across the state and Jewish community.
Really? Really? Really, NBC? It set off fears across the whole state and the community? Yeah.
The driver was killed and the security guard was injured. 8 first responders were being treated at an area hospital. All the students and staff at a Temple preschool were uninjured. Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard said that the suspect breached the facility by driving in through the doors. The cars caught fire after something ignited inside, and the suspect was found dead in the vehicle. It is
Oh,
so now they can't decide, did he get out and start a shootout or did he die in the car? Yeah,
so he
so
was found dead in the car.
now he's found dead in the car.
Okay.
Okay. It's unclear exactly what the cause of death was at this time. Yeah, maybe a false flag. Temple Israel is a Reform synagogue serving a large congregation in Michigan, a large Zionist congregation in
Yeah,
Michigan.
for people who don't know this particular area of Michigan, it's a suburb of Detroit. It's West Bloomfield, but it's very, very Ashkenazi Jewish,
Very affluent.
and very much so. And I would say predominantly Reform. There might be some conservative and Orthodox, but yeah. And this is probably a very heavily Zio community, and it isn't a coincidence that this happens in a state where right now they're losing their population as far as any support regarding Israel, or even Democrats are losing support by the minute there because of the amount of Palestinian and Muslim populations. This is bullshit.
Well, here comes more bullshit. Now it's coming from, you saw NBC, here's Fox.
So just a little bulletin here, just to add to what was just reported now. I'm hearing from a senior law enforcement source that the person who was driving the vehicle, the alleged shooter, is reported to be dead. So we had the alert from the sheriff that the suspect was not in custody. I'm being told by a senior law enforcement official that the suspect is believed to be dead. And I was wondering, Nicole.
See, I don't understand.
All right, so
I don't understand this. How is somebody believed to be dead? Either they are dead or they are not dead. And this report is happening after the incident. So there should be an answer to that question. Believed to be dead. I don't understand that. How is that a belief? He either is dead or is not dead.
Well, here's the thing that we've learned is that these guys can't get their stories straight. They're just not capable. Because in the end, they do not have enough of the population anymore that they can just get to go along with whatever it is that they're selling. And as I've often said, technology is our greatest asset and it's our greatest detriment at the same time. In this case, it's a great asset because it allows us to communicate locally as well as globally. And when stories like this pop up, you immediately have to be on the defensive because you know what the intention of these stories are. The intention is to try to gin up anti-Muslim bigotry. Hence why, for those that are wondering, West Bloomfield, along with Farmington Hills, are the two wealthiest suburbs of Detroit. And it's about 30 minutes outside of Dearborn, which is the largest Muslim population in the country. And so their goal is to try to create as much hysteria as possible.
It's also to garner a certain amount of sympathy. See, they're not so much like, until they come out and blame a Muslim terrorist, at this point, what the narrative is really just about drumming up sympathy and support for Jewish community in general. Because until at least they point out the fact that it's some, miscellaneous Muslim that, until then, we don't know who they're persecuting for this.
Well, this is what apparently Dropsite News, which is Ryan Grimm's group and Jeremy Scahill's group, this is what they're reporting, that the man reportedly who did this posted a picture of his wife and kids killed by Israel and Lebanon. Hey, if that's the case, an eye for an eye does make the whole world blind, but I'm not going to fault him for wanting a blood revenge on the people that are funding and cheering on the death of his family in Lebanon, Iran, Gaza, and the like. And that is what these people do. You see, the thing about the American Zionists, ladies and gentlemen, that you have to remember, particularly those that live in places like West Bloomfield, they are all cuck cowards of humans. They will never pick up a weapon to actually defend their cause. But what they will do is give a lot of money and a lot of power to elected officials in both major parties and in the military-industrial complex. And this is how it's facilitated. So when we ask, how is it that we're being bombarded with a $1.5 trillion, trillion with a T, military budget deficit, where do you think it comes from? It comes from people like the ones that live in West Bloomfield. They're the ones who want this, and they're the ones who fund a lot of political campaigns. So as a result, this is the turnabout fair play, so to speak. Now, of course, we would be amiss to not address the fact that what they're also trying to do is silence people. Well, yeah, I understand. So Tucker Carlson decided to respond, even though I still wish he wouldn't have, to lunatic Loomer, who is trying to blame him, apparently, for this that happened. I'm not kidding. So this is apparently what happened today, and Tucker decided to respond. So Laura Loomer says to Tucker Carlson, well, and Candace Owens.
Oh my God, this bitch. Cannot be this.
Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens both said everyone needs to know where their local Shabbat is. I said their hatred would lead to people shooting up.
Chabad.
Whatever. I can't do it. It's my throat hurts. It'll hurt even more if I try to. I said their hatred would lead to people shooting up Jews in synagogues. It will likely end up being a Muslim. Trump administration must start deporting these Islamic savages from our country, and we must start holding people accountable for inciting violence. This is very sad. Okay.
Oh my God, Laura Loomer.
Yeah, she's going to get hers eventually.
That.
Could we just take a moment to...
Can we take a moment and appreciate that there's a high unlikelihood that I'll ever run into her, and that's a good thing? Can we just take a moment, because that I don't live in South Florida anymore, and that there's no chance I'm going to run into this bitch. Like, well, I feel like that in and of itself is a win for, for the cosmic universe, because, that bitch. Oh my God.
I'm going to ask you for a favor. I'm going to go get a little bit of stuff for the throat to loosen it up a little bit.
You want me to read what Tucker said?
Read Tucker's message, please.
Okay, I'm going to be Tucker Carlson. I rarely read the filth you publish and have never responded to it for the same reason I avoid pornography. It's unhealthy and I don't want to encourage it. But in this specific case, I understand exactly what you're doing, and I'd like to stop it now. I have never said or suggested that everyone needs to know where their local Chabad is or anything remotely like it. I didn't attack or even criticize Chabad, an organization I've mentioned precisely once in my life. Last week, I said I believe that IOF soldiers in Zahel have received Third Temple patches for their uniforms from Chabad. I believe that's true. Please let me know if I'm wrong, not that you care. The point of your post is to blame me preemptively for violent attacks on American Jews that you believe are coming. This is an absurd slander, of course. I abhor violence against innocents, which is why I am disgusted by what Israel has done in Gaza and why I argued against the current war in Iran. As a Christian and an American, I also vehemently oppose punishing anyone on the basis of bloodline. The concept of Amalek has no place in Western civilization and certainly not in my country. I am therefore strongly opposed to anti-Semitism precisely as much as I am to the anti-Arab hate you promote or the anti-white bias embedded in the US government and our largest institutions. The anti-white bias embedded in the US government or our large?
Tucker can't help himself but to try to.
All right, that's absurd. It's all immoral and indefensible. I believe in the inherent rights of the individual because I believe in God. What you're doing divides this country more than you likely understand. I hope you will stop. She won't stop, Tucker. She won't stop.
She's paid to do this. She's
Not
paid
and
a lot of
more
money.
than that. She's a miserable cunt. And so when you're miserable, you want everyone else to be miserable too. And this is also a bit, and I know I've said this before, that has likely never properly been put in her place. This is the problem with a lot of these people. They've really never been put in their place. And I firmly believe as a Gen Xer that everybody at some point needs to be put in their place. Seriously. When it needs to happen. And when you don't, you end up with this kind of shit. You end up with people like this that just walk through the world with this level of entitlement that is suffocating and disgusting.
Well, it's not.
And she screams, people come kick my ass. I cannot tell you how thankful I am that I don't live in the vicinity. Oh, you know what? She is a whore. Oh, I'll give you that. She's a whore. And again, as somebody without a penis, I can't speak to her skill set, but apparently it's something, because otherwise I don't understand what her qualifications are for even existing as a social media person. I don't understand it at all.
I think in a lot of ways, she just kind of embodies, I hate using this as a reference point because again, I don't want to see people, especially children, but again, in so many cases, they don't have any choice. They're brought up in this environment and they're taught to hate, and they're taught that money and power is the end all be all. That's what Zionist Jews preach in these communities, that we're the ones in control. We're the ones who
We're talking about Laura Loomer, if you're just joining. So when you see everybody mentioning Cuntosaurus, she is definitely up there as well. Yes.
Laura Loomer, in so many respects, embodies the type of women that you consistently run into in these communities.
That's why I left.
She's not an anomaly. She's actually a lot like what they're like. Like I mentioned before about the woman who may not be as detestable as Laura Loomer, but she's still a liberal Zio of the same class. She comes from a similar community to West Bloomfield in New York. And her attitude is very comparable in that respect. She may not be a nasty C word like Laura Loomer is.
You really feel like you have to say the C word.
Men are really not supposed to use that word.
Well, what's interesting is, and seriously, and I don't know, and people, to our UK people, to our Brits and stuff, I feel like the word cunt is used a lot more there, and it is interchangeable men and women. And it's just, it doesn't seem to have the same, I don't know, anywho. But yeah, it's not how we use it.
But
although I'll use it however I want to use it, and that bitch, Or
And,
is
and
it?
the one thing I will say to Tucker, you should not have responded to her. It doesn't serve you any good to respond to her because that's what she's hoping for. People like her are hoping to get a rise out of somebody like you who actually has power. She has no power.
Okay, so I'm right about the cunt thing, and more in Scotland even. Yeah. And yeah, that's what I mean. It's much more, it's much less misogynistic than people think it is. So
Yeah. No, listen, if a woman's a cunt, she's a cunt. I'm just generally not the one who's going to use that word. However, I think that it is understated that somebody like Laura Loomer, who again is very tough to look at, not because I am judging her specifically on her physical appearance,
oh,
but
I am.
it's
Oh,
the
I
same
am.
thing. But it's the same thing with Wasserman Schultz. Wasserman Schultz is an ugly person on the inside first, which makes her an even uglier person on the outside. And the same is true for somebody like Loomer. It's the same thing. And so the presumption that the person who did this is a Muslim, when it's already been reported by an actual news site like Drop Site News, that the person in question is apparently Lebanese and his wife and kids are dead, and the likelihood that they are Christian and not Muslim only speaks to the ignorance and arrogance of this wealthy Zionist class of people that have been used to having their cake and eating it too for far too long. Eventually, they're going to run out of cake.